The day the HOA president told me to sell my cabin, I laughed. Not the kind of laugh you share with friends, the kind that slips out when someone mistakes your entire life for something they can move with a clipboard. She stood on my gravel driveway in a blazer, the color of wet cement, tapping a violation notice against her file. I stood on my porch, coffee in hand, the morning breeze rolling off the lake. Above us, my father's flag stirred in the soft wind. I didn't invite her in. She said my cabin looked non-conforming. Said the porch swing was an unapproved structure. Said the cedar pile by the shed was commercial storage. Every word felt like a mosquito bite. You can't swat in polite company. I looked down the hill at the dock my dad and I built when I was 12, remembered his calloused hand guiding mine as I drove the first nail. I could still hear Mom's laughter through the open window, sewing curtains while teasing my crooked hammering. Non-conforming. This place was my family's handwriting carved into the land. Then she said it, you should sell. The board voted. It's the cleanest solution. It's like it was mercy, not eviction. I told her I wasn't interested. She gave a small, pitying smile. You'll change your mind when the fines start. When she left, I held that notice up to the light like it might admit it was a joke. It didn't. It had dates, fees, and a signature with loops so big you could lasso a horse through them. I sat on the porch step. It's that old anger rising, the kind that tastes like metal. This wasn't about lumber stacks or porch swings. It was about being told to pack away your father's flag, your mother's curtains, and the smell of rain and pine boards because someone else liked a tidier version of your story. That night, I walked the property line. The moon cut silver through the pines. My boot hit an old survey stake, and I smiled. People forget things. Paper, dot. By week's end, the letters came like weather. Notice. Second notice. Intent to fine. Neighbors started whispering, rumors spreading like wildfire. They said I was turning my cabin into an Airbnb. Said I was stockpiling lumber for rentals. Said I owned a pit bull that terrorized kids at the bus stop. I don't even have a dog. But I do have a memory and patience. When I asked to see the bylaws, Janet, that's her name, said they were 4 members in good standing. I told her I'd been in good standing for 57 years on this lake. She said that wasn't on the ledger. I told her some ledgers are written in wood and water. She sent another notice. So, I drove down to the county recorder's office, that old brick building that smells like dust and time. There it was, sitting in the archives, a deed from 1974. The year my father sold off parcels of our land to form this lakeside community. But he didn't sell it all. He kept the cabin. 10 acres around it. And something far more powerful, the master easement. The right-of-way to the lake and road, and a reversion clause if the HOA ever used those rights to harm our property. My father's initials were in the margin. Mine, too, added when he handed me the folder one summer and said, "Don't ever let strangers rename what this is." I made copies, highlighted the key sections, stapled them shut with a satisfying thunk. It felt good to move toward justice. The next HOA meeting was in the fire station hall, beige walls, its folding chairs, and that burnt coffee smell only small towns know. When I walked in, heads turned. Janet smiled like she owned the room. Owning and understanding aren't the same thing. She clicked through a slideshow of violations. My cabin filled the screen like a mugshot. She spoke about uniformity, values, and community standards. Then any questions? I raised my hand. Who here has actually seen my cabin? A few hands went up. A few shoulders shrugged. People love voting on things they've never seen. So, I stood. This cabin was here before this HOA even had a name. My father built the dock your families fish from. He laid the stones you park on. He sold this land so neighbors could enjoy the lake. But he kept some rights because he believed in balance. I handed out copies of the deed. The room fell silent. You could hear the paper moving hand to hand. Janet's face went pale. She said she'd need to consult legal counsel. I told her I already have. Murmurs. A chair scraped. Someone whispered my name. I kept going. You find me for the cedar by my shed. That's the wood for a porch my son and I are building, one my father promised him years ago. You called my swing unapproved. That swing is where my mother sat her last summer, feeling the breeze off this lake. You asked me to sell. You said this place doesn't belong. I paused. Sometimes silence does more than words. This lake is my family's heartbeat, I said quietly. You care about mailbox colors and fence heights. I care about memory. And those aren't the same thing. A week later, I got a letter from their lawyer, all stiff language and empty threats. So I mailed back the deed, a county survey map, and a note. Please note that the reversion clause remains active. A forced sale would trigger it. Then the calls started. Not angry ones, nervous ones. Board members wanting to talk. People suddenly remembering borrowing my canoe years back. One man, Harold, came by with a six-pack. We sat on the porch, watching the lake turn silver, and he admitted the truth. This isn't about your swing. Janet just likes control. I nodded. Then let's remind her this neighborhood's built on community, not control. I offered a deal. We'd host a community day. We'd mend the picnic tables, patch the path, replace the old life ring. Everyone would help. And in return, the board would drop the fines, amend the bylaws to respect pre-HOA structures, and commit to visiting before issuing violations. Harold chuckled. Janet won't go for that. I smiled. She doesn't have to. The people will. That Saturday was picture perfect, blue skies, laughter, and the smell of barbecue drifting across the lake. Kids blew bubbles. Old men argued over how to flip a bratwurst. I brought out my father's battered toolbox and let a 10-year-old hammer a new welcome sign for the dock. We fixed more in 4 hours than the HOA had done in 4 years. Then I stood on a picnic table and said, if this place is going to be a neighborhood, it should feel like one. The crowd erupted in agreement. Hands went up. Voices joined. The vote passed right there. Violations gone. Bylaw changed. Janet speechless. Procedure means nothing when the heart of a community beats louder than its rules. She resigned to. Weeks later, replaced by a man who helped me set the dock posts back in '98. I didn't gloat. The next cool morning, I split that cedar, built the porch with my son, and hung the swing. It creaked like old knees, and we laughed. Then I raised my father's flag a little higher. When the new president stopped by, he brought pie and left with firewood. We stood at the water's edge, saying nothing. We didn't need to. Sometimes people say I own the neighborhood. It's not true. I don't own people. I own responsibility, the easements, the land that keeps this place together. And the memory of a man who believed home isn't something you enforce. It's something you live. That evening, the lake went glass still. A loon called across the cove. My son handed me coffee, and we rocked on that porch swing. The flag whispered softly overhead. For the first time in years, everything felt right. Sometimes standing up for what's right means standing alone until others find the courage to join you. Have you ever faced an HOA like this? Share your story in the comments. I read every one. And if you believe some fights are worth having, hit subscribe, and let's stand up together.